Hello, my name is Hope from the platform of University. I want to specially welcome you all to Virtual Companion course book reading section. We'll be reading a book from Buchi Mbechita titled Second Class Citizen. So today we'll be reading from chapter 3. Chapter 3. And this chapter is titled A Cold Welcome. A Cold Welcome. There was a sudden burst of excitement on the deck of the ship. Ada could hear it from where she was sitting in her cabin, changing Vicky's napkin. For a moment, she stopped what she was doing, straining her ears to make out what the excitement was about. But she could hear nothing coherent. There was voices jabbering loudly, somebody laughing hysterically, and there were sounds of someone running as if chased by demons. What could it be? Wondered Ada as she hurried through the diaper routine. Perhaps it was a fire or an accident, or could it be that they were drowning? She knew they could be in Liverpool in a day or two, but what was the rushing for? She was unable to bear the suspense any longer, so she quickly slipped a dress on and ran out on to the deck. She had forgotten that they had passed the Bay of Biscay. She had gotten that they were now in Europe, and that it was March. The cold wind that blew on her face as she was emerged on deck was as heavy and hurtful as a blow from a bursar. She ran back with her arms folded across her chest to get more clothes. Then she ran to the ship's nurse. The nurse had a fat face, small eyes, and a fat body. She was all smiles when she saw Ada, and her eyes were lost in creases. "Have you eaten? Have you seen it?" she bubbled. "Have you seen Liverpool? It's too early and a bit dark, but we are in Liverpool. We have arrived in England." Ada opened her eyes wide and closed them again, still shivering. So they had arrived. She had arrived in the United Kingdom. "Pa, I'm in the United Kingdom." Her heart sank to her dead father. The nurse stared at her face a second, then dashed past her, anxious to spread the good news. Ada put on the woolies which she bought at La Palmas. Then she ran out on the deck. England gave Ada a cold welcome. The welcome was particularly cold because only a few days previously they had been enjoying bright and cheerful welcome from ports like Takodi, Freetown, and Las Palmas. If Ada had been Jesus, she would have passed England by Liverpool. Liverpool was grey, smoky, and looked uninhabited by humans. It reminded Ada of the local yard where they told her Pa had once worked as a molder. In fact, the architectural designs were the same. But if, as people said, there was plenty of money in England, why then did the natives give their visitors their poor cold welcome? Well, it was too late to mourn. It was too late to change her mind. She could not have changed it even if she was wanted to. Even if she had wanted to. Her children must have an English education, and for that reason, she was prepared to bear the coldest welcome, even if it came from the land of her dreams. She was a little bit disappointed, but she told herself not to worry. If people like Lawyer, Moise, and others could survive it, so could she. The Francis that came to meet them was a new Francis. There was something very, very different about him. Ada was stunned when he kissed her in public, with everyone looking. Oh my God, she thought. If her mother-in-law could see them, she could go and make sacrifices to Obashi for forgiveness. Francis was delighted with Vicky. Just my image. I can now die in peace. What do you mean, die in peace? Ada challenged. Francis laughed. In England, people make jokes of everything, even things as serious as death. People still laugh about them. Yes, Ada was beginning to be scared. She looked around her widely. There were thousands of people rushing around, clutching their luggage and pulling their children. But it came when it was not as noisy as it would have been had they been in Lagos. The whites she saw did not look like people who could make jokes about things like death. They looked remote, happy in an aloof sleigh, but determined to keep their distance. These people don't look as if they know how to joke. You are lying, Francis. You are making it all up. English people don't joke about death. This separation of ours has made you bold. You have never in your life told me that I was lying before, Francis accused. Ada was quieted by the sharpness of his voice. The sharpness seemed to say to her, it is allowed for African males to come and get civilized in England, but that privilege has not been extended to females yet. She would have liked to protest about it from the very beginning. But what was the point of their quarreling on the very first day of their meeting after such a long separation? It was a very sad indication, though, of what was coming. But she prayed that the two of them would be strong enough to accept civilization into their relationship. Because if they did not, their coming would be a very big mistake. After the tedious check by the immigration officers, they shivered themselves into the train. It sped on and on for hours. For the first time, Ada saw real snow. It all looked so beautiful after the greyness of Liverpool. It was as if there was beautiful white clouds on the ground. She saw the factory where often was made. Somehow that factory, standing there isolated, clean and red against the snowy background. lightening her spirit. She was in England at last. She was beginning to feel like Dick Wellington. Francis had told her in his letter that he had accommodation for them in London. He did not warn her what it was like. The shock of it all nearly drove her crazy. The house was grey, with green windows. She could not tell where the house began and where it ended, because it was joined to other houses in the street. She had never seen houses like that before, joined together like that. In Lagos, houses were usually completely detached with the yard on both sides, the compound at the back, and verandas in front. These ones had one of those things. They were long solid blocks with doors opening into the street. The windows were blocked. The windows were arranged in straight rows along the street. On looking round, Ada noticed one could tell which window belonged to which door by the color the frame were painted. Most of the houses seemed to have the same curtains for their windows. They all look like churches, monasteries, Ada remarked. They build their houses like that here. They build their houses like that here because land is not as plentiful as it is in Lagos. I am sure the builders of the furniture will start building our houses like that when Nigeria is fully industrialized. At the moment we can afford to waste land in building spacious verandas and backyards, we may never be as bad as this, jammed against each other. Francis did not make any comment. There was no need. He opened the door into what looked to Ada like a tunnel, but it was a hall with flowered walls. It was narrow, and it seemed like first as if there was no windows. Ada clutched at Titi, and she in turn held her mother in fear. She climbed stairs upon stairs until they seemed to be approaching the roof of the house. Then Francis opened the door and showed them into a room or a half room. It was very small, with a single bed at one end and a new seat which Francis had bought with the money Ada sent him to buy her a top coat with. The space between the seat and the bed was just enough for the formica top table, the type she had in the kitchen in Lagos. "Are we going to live here?" she managed to ask. "Well, I know you will not like it, but this is the best I can do. You see, accommodation here is very short in London, especially for black people with children. Everybody is coming in London, the West Indians, the Pakistanis, and even the Indians, and even the Indians. So that African students are usually grouped together with them. We all are blacks, all colored, and the only houses we can get are horrors like this." Well, what could she say? She simply stared. She said nothing even when she learned that the toilet was outside, 4 flats of stairs down in the yard, nor when she learned that there was no bath and no kitchen. She swallowed it all, just like a nasty pill. In the evening, the other tenants returned from the factories where they work. They all came to welcome her. Then, to her horror, she saw that she had to share the house with such Nigerians who called her madam at home. Some of them were of the same educational background as her paid servants. She knew she had a terrible childhood, but still, in Nigeria, class distinctions were beginning to be established. "Oh, Francis," she wailed inwardly, "how could you have done this to us? After all, we have friends who, though they may be living in slums like this, still live apart from this type of people." So this is where we'll be ending the book reading section for today. Thank you so much for listening.